Welcome to I on the Illini. We're doing the halftime show, folks, and Illinois is down 13-10 to Minnesota at the half. Ked, looked like the offense for Illinois started slow. We had tons of people who were out there saying, "Oh my gosh, fire this person, fire that person," but in the end, it comes out to be a fairly close half. The difference was the fumble by Luke Altmaier that ended up becoming a field goal.
They look uninspired to me. I'm kind of surprised, but I'm not. They just look like they're going through the motions, and maybe that's why Minnesota was favored coming into the game. We talked, in our group chat about Illinois playing Illinois football and doing things that we typically see all the time. And what I meant by that in our group chat to the listeners out there is this: Illinois 6-2. They struggled a little bit against Oregon, and a non-traditional Illinois team will come out at home, go for win number 7. But today they're making it difficult. They look like they are just going through the motions, and Minnesota's hungry. I mean, we can have all the adjectives we want and say why this game is important to them, but if you want to go undefeated at home, which you could do, and you can win 2 more games, that's 8 games that they can give you that you can win, Mike, and have a better bowl. I just don't understand why they look lackadaisical to me.
Yeah, I put some of this as Minnesota's a pretty good team, and they're playing really well right now. Coming off a 3-game winning streak right now, into the Illini game, and I think the interesting thing is Max Brosmer has not looked overly comfortable back there. I think Illinois has to keep the pass rush at him because if he has chance to throw, he's been really fairly effective when Illinois has made him move around a little bit or made him thread the needle. He has not been as accurate as I was thinking. You're looking at 22 passing attempts to reach 100 yards or 99 yards. Illinois has played well against him, but I do think they've got to keep the pressure on at some point.
I think Aaron Henry's done a great job. I thought he did a good job last week. He's made strides. We got to go back to the offense. And here's one thing that I struggle with the offense. We've said it all year, and it's not going to change. I know you have to run the football. It's Big Ten football. It's college football. It's football in general. But you cannot run up the middle all the time and expect to get yards. I just don't. Yes, McCray had a great run, but that's been, 5-6 games that you've seen it. They have to find a way. Somehow find a way. I don't care what scheme you use to have the running backs be effective. If you're not going to use the pass to set up the run, then you better figure out how to run off tackles because I'm going to tell you, it's a bad look. And I get it, but I know Brett wants to do it. And you're talking about what Minnesota's doing. I'm worried about what Illinois should be doing. Minnesota's good and they've improved. Don't get me wrong, but this is a game. You're home. You have a chance to go to win 7. The quarterback, you're right. He's not doing anything that he did last week. However, you know what? If Illinois doesn't make the second half adjustments, I guarantee you Minnesota will, and he'll probably find his rhythm if they don't start scoring points. Illinois never makes it easy.
Yeah, interesting thing this game. You look at the total offense. Illinois has 219 yards of offense to Minnesota's 187. The teams are relatively close in other things. Minnesota's got 15 rushes, 88 yards for an average of 5.9 yards a rush. Illinois obviously doesn't want to give up that type of yards per carry. But conversely, Illinois is at 16 for 84 at 5.3. But as you noted, a lot of that came on one particular play. And that Illinois inability to run up the middle with any reliability, I think, puts a lot of pressure on them because you've got to go get it out on the corner. And the other thing is Luke Altmaier is taking too many hits right now.
Mike, he has been solid. That hit he took today, I mean, it was hard. It was a tough hit. They picked him up, and it looked like they threw him down. But you know what? It's college football, and I know he's never going to say anything. And I'm glad you brought that up. The offensive line, I'm surprised for a Brett Bielema team. I'm surprised. He has been hit way too many times, and I'm not. Donovan Leary is a good backup quarterback. I think he's going to be great. He's the future of the program. But right now, you have to protect Luke, and they're not doing that. And they're just an injury away from not struggling, but not having the season that they want. I mean, they just. I don't know if they're athletic enough. I really don't, and I know they practice it. So for the people out there saying they don't practice it, you're kidding yourself because I know they do.
Well, and that goes back to the fact that Illinois is 6-2 on $3 to $5 million of NIL funds, and if there's a way for the Illini to raise their NIL fundraising, you can certainly see that probably the first place I would go is defensive line and a linebacker who can make plays. And offensive line needs a little bit of help as well. Now, some of that's coming as guys get older, but boy, that's where I see the difference between Illinois and some of the better programs is just the line play is superior, and Illinois, particularly on the defensive side, is even thinner than they are on offensive line.
Since our podcast last week, I've had a number of people message me, email me about our topic of conversation about the amount of money you have and what you need to do to have an effective offensive line and just skill positions alone. I mean, this matters. I mean, if Illinois if they want to take the next step, they, like I said last week, and I'm not changing my mind. If they don't have the budget some of these other schools do, you can't miss on players. You have to have depth, number one, and you have to have quality players and speed. That's when you look at all the top teams in college football, there's speed and there's depth, and there's guys who don't miss assignments. I mean, it's going to happen occasionally, but you can't have assignment. I'm not going to call names where two guys is blocking a defensive end and he blows right by you to get to a quarterback. That can't happen, and that happened today in today's game.
Yeah, that was a particularly ugly play. Definitely put some problems there for Luke Altmaier, who of course was forced to be the guy who was dealing with that. And I go back, I look at what Darius Taylor's doing today. 75 yards on 9 carries. Been a little more consistent than the Illinois running attack, as opposed to Illinois' been big home run, but maybe not as much. Every single down. Uh, I I really think they've got to protect the ball. They can't have any turnovers in the second half. And I just would like to see more of the run to set up, or excuse me, more of the pass to set up the run. And I know that the first down run up the middle is something that Bielema likes done, but yeah, I think you've got to sometimes use Pat Bryant. Hopefully he's okay. Use the other talent that you've got at wide receiver, and let's start moving the ball downfield, and maybe that'll loosen up the run game.
Well, here's one thing I'm going to say, and I've not said it all season, but I'm going to say it today. Zachary Franklin, in my opinion, is as good as Pat Bryant, but for some reason, they don't throw the ball to him enough down the field. He's the one guy, and even Pat, stretch the ball down the field. Don't go, east and west. Throw that ball down the field some because you have two guys that they have great hands. Throw it down the field and let them make plays. Even if you throw it on first down 20, 25 yards, 30 yards, do it again the next time. Because if you convert on a couple of those, then the run game becomes effective. If your run game is not what you want, I'm not coaching the Division I football, but I've heard enough press conferences and been to enough of them to what you hear them say. If we can't run the football, we're going to have to be able to pass it, and then our run game will be good. And I'm supportive of all the running backs. I don't have a problem with anybody back there. We know Caden Fagan's gone. I'm okay with Valentine. I'm okay with Josh. But it's hard to run between the tackles when your line can't do what they need to do. And I'm not criticizing them. I know they're trying, but it's not effective. And anybody can see that. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, Luke Altmaier is particularly good at dropping the deep ball in, and he's good at placing the ball very well. The only concern I would have with throwing deeper to him is you don't want him killed, and that goes back to your offensive line challenges. So maybe you do what Mike Leach used to do. I'm not saying an air raid, but I'm saying use use the full width of the field, and it can be a shorter passing game, but that forces the defense to cover the whole field, and then that gives you an opportunity with your running game to be fairly effective, just because there are gaps out there exposed by trying to cover the short passing game.
Mike, they have three guys, in my personal opinion, that are really, really good receivers. I think so. I think Colin Dixon's going to be good. You have Brian, you have Zachary Franklin, Hank Beatty occasionally. You have to throw the ball. It would be different if you didn't have anybody to throw it to, but you do. Get it down the field, stretch it out. Because what's frustrating to a lot of people who are fans of this team, when have they blown anybody out? When have they just came out and just buried a team? Because all the teams they play aren't good enough. I mean, if it was me, when I watched the first two drives, which we talked about at the top of this podcast, they just look uninspired. That you can't do. If you're a hungry team, don't just go through the motions. Put teams away. And I've yet to see that. Wins count, because you know what? We go back to that Purdue loss. That Purdue win. It was 1 point, and it was exciting because a win's a win. But being confident, knowing that you're going to win this game, everybody walked into this game knowing that this is going to be a competitive game. You're down 13-10, which you just broadcasted, and they're going to come out Minnesota with the ball the second half. And I'm sure they're going to make some adjustments. So Illinois is going to have to make adjustments. They have to get off the field, number one, especially in third downs. And I'm all for Aaron Henry. He has been amazing in year two, but they have to get off the field. But when you get off the field, the offense can't go down and go 3 and out either.
Yeah. Yeah. And I do think that ultimately with Minnesota getting the ball here at the start of the second half, I really think the Illinois defense, they can't allow this to get a little wider. You really, I don't even want a field goal on this one. I think they need to get a stop. Illinois needs to get the lead back and start playing a little more aggressively. I think there is a little bit of maybe a natural letdown after you play Oregon. But this Minnesota team, again, 5-3, 3-game winning streak. PJ Fleck's got a lot to prove. He's never beat Brett Bielema, and they have an opportunity to get their 6th win and make themselves bowl eligible. And they have a tough schedule coming up. So this is probably the game that they look at as saying this is the best shot for us to win. And they're fired up, and Illinois needs to match that in the second half.
So having said that, you could be the team that may keep them out of a bowl game. You could be the team where Brett Bielema goes 11-0, I believe, against PJ in Minnesota. Keep it going. Don't come out, and I know there's an old adage, and you mentioned it. Yeah, you played Oregon, you went out there. So what? You know what? So what? You know what? Ohio State didn't do that. If you want to be elite and you want to be one of the better teams, you have to come out and play inspired football. I'm sorry, and I'm not disappointed, but I know they're better than this. And I'm looking at Twitter as we speak, and a lot of the media guys are saying the same thing. One guy put a poll out asking, how boring is this? Because it shouldn't be that way. And what will happen if this game was close, 13-10? You're going to see Illinois just play the same way. I like to be the aggressor as a coach.
Yeah, and I do kind of wonder about that. And again, I'm not saying that Illinois is going to lose this game, but I think we are saying that the sense of urgency needs to be there. Earlier in the first half, I tweeted out that Ohio State was down 10-0, and they need to play like they want to win. And they got the ensuing kickoff and ran the ball like 70 yards down the field, in 3 minutes, and got back to 10-7, and then took the lead. They played like a different team in the second quarter, and Illinois needs to play a little bit like a team that's got a lot more on the line, because this is the toughest game that they've got. If you look on paper, of the next 4, and so they've got an opportunity here to finish the year off. If they can win this one, that puts them in a shot for 9 wins and maybe even 10 wins. And this is a big game, and I don't know how Coach Coach Bielema gets that to the players in a way they can understand it.
I'm sure it's been talked about. I mean, they know
Yeah.
what's at stake. I mean, Mike, they have an idea of what's at stake here. Create an identity. Start to change the norm of Illinois football. And this sounds so bad, and I don't mean it to be negative. But when Illinois basketball takes the court, fans know they're going to have a chance to win every time. They know no matter who they're playing, in the 7 years Brad Underwood's been there, they have a chance. That's what you want with your football program. That's what every coach wants. Forget with your football program. Every coach wants that. I don't care if they lost Oregon. Come back. Being an underdog at home sends the wrong message to me. Number one, you can argue because they didn't know Pat Bryant was going to play. Well, Bielema tweeted it last night, so people knew. Change the norm and the perception, and think when you play Illinois football, whether you're playing Ohio State or Oregon or Georgia, the next game you're going to be up for and you're going to come to play.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, and I do think that in the end, this Illini team they've got to figure out something to. There was a brief period of time there, I thought, in the middle of the second quarter, that Lunny kind of got a rhythm play calling wise. I'd like to see him get into that rhythm a little quicker in this half. And the other component I think that we all have to realistically think about is, the Illinois defense. Rosiak is not in the game right now. They've got to come together and get somebody to contribute, because Rosiak's a big part of that defense. He's very active, and that's going to be a key if we want to stop that rushing game that Minnesota has.
And that goes back that we talked about earlier is your depth. It's the next man up. If the next man up can't be a drop off, it has to be a guy that's going to be able to do the job. So we're going to see. We're going to see what kind of adjustments both teams make. I think right now, out of both teams' offense and defense, Illinois is a team. Their offense is the one that's better. Minnesota's defense has been solid because Illinois has been really, really good in the red zone. They want, they didn't score a touchdown. They got to get, and they got a field goal today out of it. So right now, I want to see Illinois' offense come out and try to do something different. And I also want to see Aaron Henry try to get to the quarterback a little bit more. I mean, they've done a good job. It's not like it was last week when they played Oregon. There's chances there where you can go send 3 or 4 guys and you can go get Brosman. You got a good chance to put pressure on him. So I want to see them do that. And you also, Darius Taylor had 75 yards in the first half. I don't want to get him good. I don't want to get him cooking. He's averaging 8 yards a carry. Part of that because he had a 29-yard run, but I want to see them be able to contain him in the second half as well.
Yeah, and for those of you who enjoy recruiting, Ked is our director of recruiting at IlliniGuys. He did put up a story for subscribers earlier this morning where you can see names of people who are going to be looking at this game and wanting to potentially attend the University of Illinois. Stars like Alex Graham, Taiwan Cox, J.C. Anderson, Ace Alston, Kenyon Alson, Antoine Higgins Jr., and Matthew LaFou. So, Ked, this is a big game because there's a lot of recruits there watching to see how the Fighting Illini look against the Gophers.
This is important because you know why? Next week is your last home game, and it's over. Next week, when they play Michigan State,
Yep.
It's done. So now you can say, yeah, you're playing at Rutgers or Northwestern, but for you to be able to host these recruits and to be able to sell them and talk to them after the game and what they liked and didn't like, this is your chance, and you don't want to come out and lay an egg because most of the recruits at Illinois, Minnesota recruits the same players.
Yep, and then the other part is Illinois has a week off next week, and then they have Michigan State, and it would be great to come off of a victory and give that coaching staff a week to do some phone calls to see who they can get to come to that last game. It would be a lot better if Illinois was going into that game 7-2. And has an opportunity, to win their 8th game at home, and that would be a big draw for kids who are thinking about coming to Illinois next season.
And it'll keep them in the top 25. That's what you want because the Illinois media department does a great job. Stay in the top 25. Have a chance to get healthy. You're 7-2. You could be undefeated at home, and then you get a bye week to play Michigan State. Then you're going to get healthy. All the signs are going to the right direction. You just have to find a way to win this game, whether it be 21 and 20 or whatever the case may be. Find a way to win the game.
Yeah, we'll see what Illinois got there here in the second half. Folks, we're going to let you tune into the game as it's just about to start the second half kickoff. Of course, Kedrick and I will be back right after the game with our instant talk, where we will give you the take right after the game. And, of course, after that, I will have Matt Stevens on, and we will be discussing more of the analysis after he gets done talking to the players and coaches in the locker room. Until then, folks, go Illini.